Hey, my friends, welcome to today's live stream. Diving into the feminist movement, feminism, right? I reshared a tweet that the Patriot Barbie had shared on her Instagram. And the reason I did that is because I think it's important to realize who the real enemy is, right? Is the enemy anyone on the left? Or are they just are we all being, and they being, in some cases, sometimes it's conservatives being psyoped and made to believe things that aren't actually true. But I call it weaponizing people against themselves. That's what I call it. But anyway, I kind of push back against this whole it's the left's fault or it's the right's fault. There are problems. Let's be real. A weaponized person that is weaponized against themselves and others in their country is just as dangerous, whether it's done covertly or from a psyop, as whether it's their own mind. They make up their own mind and go, oh, I'm going to do this thing. I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but I do want to distinguish between who the real enemy is, right? It's interesting to me how in 2025, we're still fighting the left-right battle quite heavily, right? Everyone's thinking, oh, it's the left's fault for letting all of these undocumented people into our country and, overwhelming the system, Cloward Piven type style, or it's the right's fault for being too, I guess, totalitarian and running roughshod over everyone else, right? It's not either of those groups' faults. It's the people puppeteering behind the scenes. I've got some videos queued up. Let's jump in and find out what's going on here together. So this gal is pretty interesting. I've watched her stuff before, so here we go.
How did this feminist movement happen in the first place? Well, of course, actually, the government crafted it to their uses. They saw it coming up and they said, you know what, let us jump in on that and make sure that we can get in on that to use that to make more money. Gloria Steinem, the person that arguably mainstreamed this entire movement, is a confirmed CIA agent. She and her magazine, Miss Magazine, were funded by the CIA. They had a huge readership. The first week of Miss Magazine coming out, they sold something like 300,000 issues, probably 100% of that going to women and a lot of young women. And they really popularized those issues of abortion, education, and this general idea that women were not free and needed to be liberated. So the CIA literally used Gloria Steinem as an agent of propaganda, and this is not like something I'm just making up. You can go Google this. You can go to the CIA.gov. This is all out there. The CIA used Gloria Steinem. They sent her around the world to be an agent of counter-Soviet propaganda and promote her ideas, not just in the United States, but literally around the world, which we can see how that has really worked out. This is Gloria Steinem's own words about the CIA. She says the CIA was a, quote, liberal, non-violent, and honorable institution. That is not a feminist, liberal, or how did this feminist movement happen in the first place?
Let me tell you who that is. She has cool content. Her handle on Instagram is called The War on Beauty. If you haven't noticed, there's a war on beautiful things. Buildings, art, vehicles, hashtag Cybertruck. I know a lot of people like them, but it is a brutalist rendition of a vehicle. Let's be real. I know if you like it, I don't mean to hurt your feelings. What else is gone the way? Houses, square boxes, they're creating things that are uninspiring, that don't lift the human spirit, etc. And this gal talks about that. She calls herself an aesthetic evangelist. And again, she's at the War on Beauty on Instagram, leading the crusade against ugly USC art history. A lot of people are getting in the fight to talk about what's what challenges we're facing in the world and why we're facing them. So let's watch another one here. This one is also good. Now, I don't know how long this is, but this is Gloria Steinem herself. Let me find a real good one here. Here we go.
Exactly when did your own association with the CIA start, and in what fashion?
In 1958, when I came home from India, I discussed with student leaders, past and present, many of them active with the National Student Association, this kind of small foundation to encourage Americans to go. They thought it was a good idea, too. I was then told by foundations and professors and friends that I should not do this, that I would get in trouble with the House Un-American Activities Committee, the American Legion, and I became convinced that it was impossible. It was at that point that the student leaders said to me that they had in the past received funds for international programs from the CIA, and that they felt that this was important and could also be partly funded by the...
Remember, why are we critical of the CIA again? Let's refresh our memory. The CIA has interfered in 80 to 100. I think it's closer to 100. Foreign governments, democratically elected leaders in other countries, and put puppets in that are favorable to the people that run the United States, right? The business interests, the political interests, and they're very sketchy, not to mention CIA medical experiments. I've never seen anything the CIA has done that's been good for humanity. Let's continue.
CIA. And the private individuals to whom I went often had particular points of view to put forward, which would have been much, much more restricting than the CIA funds were, which were free. I mean, no one was told what to say.
You mean they were free? You mean to say it was easier for you to work for the CIA than a private organization?
That's right. And the reason I think that comes as a surprise, as it did to me at the time. I mean, I had the conventional liberals' view of the CIA as a right-wing incendiary group. And I was amazed to discover that this was far from the case, that they were enlightened, liberal, nonpartisan activists of the sort. When the story broke that I had for 4 years been a Central Intelligence agent, I was demonstrating outside the Pentagon underneath Mr. McNamara's office against bombing in Vietnam. And this didn't precisely fit with the image of a CIA agent, but then neither does the CIA.
Exactly.
You know, I question, you know, as we learn and dig deeper into what's going on and that both sides are complicit, the left and the right, you know, it all moves the needle forward. Now, this is another good one right here. Let's check it out.
How did a former CIA asset become the face of feminism? Gloria Steinem is considered a trailblazing feminist. She's the founder of Ms. Magazine and a household name in the women's rights movement. But many people don't know that Steinem spent years working for a CIA front organization, shaping youth activism under the direct influence of American intelligence. From 1958 to 1962, Steinem was employed by the Independent Research Service, an organization secretly funded by the CIA. Its mission was to send American students to youth international festivals dominated by pro-Soviet organizing and ensure the U.S. had a presence to push back. This wasn't just about countering communism, it was about ensuring American imperial ideology controlled the global youth movement. In 1967, Steinem's CIA ties were exposed, yet instead of fading into obscurity like many former agents who struggled to find work, her career exploded. 1 year after the revelations, she was suddenly propelled to national prominence. Clay Felker, the publisher of New York Magazine, backed her rise and later helped launch Ms. Magazine in 1971. Major early investors included Katharine Graham, owner of the Washington Post and Newsweek, who poured in $20,000 before the magazine even launched. Then came Warner Communications, which put up nearly $1 million while only taking 25% of the stock. This was a bizarre deal by media investment standards, but Warner conveniently also owned Wonder Woman Comics, which Ms. aggressively promoted as a feminist icon. With corporate money and elite media backing, Ms. Magazine became the face of mainstream feminism. This is why Ms. Magazine never truly embraced anti-imperialist struggles, and it's why Steinem herself, despite her history, remained a celebrated feminist figure instead of being seen for what she really was, an operative whose career aligned perfectly with U.S. geopolitical interests. How did a former CIA asset become the...
They're never up to anything good. They're always, even if it may seem like, oh, we're liberating women, or, oh, we're doing these good things, it's never anything good for humanity or America, right? Let me see if I can find the Renee or the Aaron Russo video, and we'll watch that. Let's see. Here we go.
Talk, and he started laughing. He said, Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about? I said, I'm pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, you know? And he started to laugh and said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib. And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He said, there were two primary reasons. And they were, one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. So it breaks up the family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for Women's Lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. You know, when I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble invention. And he started laughing. He said, what do you think women's liberation?
Yeah, that's a good video there. There's just a lot of funny business. And again, you will know them by their fruits. It's important to look at what they have done so we can understand what they could be doing now, right? The overarching theme is always to undermine society, undermine human beings, undermine the family, because the family is the strongest bond, right? If we don't have families and everyone's just living individual, then everyone can just be part of the state, right? If you have families, I mean, blood is thicker than water kind of a thing. That's why they want to destroy it, because that familial bond is so strong. Anyway, thanks for checking out this short deep dive into feminism, and I appreciate you taking the time. So I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.